Hello, welcome to Teaching for Success. My name is Rosa, and I'm the founder and owner of Teaching for Success, which is a Canadian-based online business that provides professional development workshops and consultancy services for teachers in Uganda. Today, I'm very excited to interview Louisa Olafui from Kunda Kids, who is a UK-based author with Ugandan heritage. She has authored several books with her husband, Oladele Olafui, that depict the richness of our African culture. Welcome, Louisa, to Teaching for Success.
Thank you so much, Rosa. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Louisa, tell us more about yourself.
Yes, sure. So as you mentioned, I'm Uganda. I was born in Uganda, raised in the UK, and I'm a children's book author and publisher. I run a publishing company called Kunda Kids that specializes in children's books and media, specific with one really main goal and intention for us, and that's to inspire the next generation about African culture, African heritage, and to really illuminate African history through the art of storytelling.
Okay, what inspired you to start writing children's books?
Oh, good question. So, I mean, it's been a very interesting and at times challenging last couple of years for everybody with coronavirus and lockdown. And during that time when both my husband, Dele, and myself were at home, we started looking for books for our own son, who is almost going to be 3. And we really struggled to find books in the market that were appropriate for his age, picture books, board books, and that really celebrated his African culture and his African heritage. So our son is mixed heritage Ugandan and Nigerian, and we wanted him to be seeing characters and stories and themes that really celebrated where he was from. But we did struggle to find that. We did find plenty of books that celebrated him as a young Black boy, but not so many books that celebrated him as a young Black African boy. So we wanted to address this directly and started writing stories aimed at his age and all the way up until 8 years old that introduced him to fantastic people in African history. I do understand that African history and history in general can be quite complicated and intense and isn't always suitable for educating a 3-year-old in detail, and that we weren't trying to teach history comprehensively, but what we did want to do is introduce young people to characters. The same way toddlers might recognize Henry VIII or Napoleon or a number of different common characters. The Queen is the same way we wanted them to know Shaka Zulu, Mansa Musa, and Queen Kutami from Uganda. So that was the inspiration behind Kunda Kids. And now we have 6 books, and actually recently 7 books. All of them have a strong, positive African focus. And then we also have a number of different things like activity guides and teacher's guides, which I know that we're going to get into anyway.
Okay, so that is so wonderful that you actually solved a problem for your own child and started writing books that were relevant to him and to his culture. And in so doing, you solved a problem for so many people, especially in societies where we don't have a lot of Black characters depicted in positive light. So that is very awesome.
Thank you.
What are some of the books that you've authored?
Great question. So I actually have some to show you, and these are some of the characters that we have from our books behind us, if you're behind me, if you can see. So I'm going to start actually with this book because it's very close to my heart. It's called, I'm not sure if you can actually, oh dear, you can't see it because of my
background.
But I'm sure we'll put the books on the website. But one of the books is called Queen Kutami Makes Friends. A lot of people don't know about Queen Kutami, but she was actually a warrior queen in Uganda from the area of Mpororo, and in her day, she was what we would regard now as being an amazing feminist. She stood up for her country, her people, and she was known for having an all-female warrior squad. Wow. So she was very much about female empowerment, and we've created this lovely story about the importance of friendship, making friends, and trying something new. Sometimes it can be daunting, but how to overcome that with friends that can encourage you, and teaching the importance of friendship and also being a good friend too. So that's how we've sort of developed these historical fictional stories, taking real people and then bringing them into fun fictional situations that young people can really relate to.
I like how you add character education to your books, like teaching students about, or children, should I say, about things like friendship, which is really important, a great social piece in learning for children, whether it's within their schools or outside of their schools, in their homes or communities. So that is wonderful. So do you think that your books are relevant to the Ugandan culture? And if they are, how are they relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. And just on your last point, developing soft skills in young people is something that we're really, really passionate about. It's a great opportunity to learn about people in history, but as a young person and even as an adult, we always want to be trying to develop ourselves and to be better people, to be more conscientious with ourselves and also with people around us. In terms of the importance of these sorts of books in Uganda and in Africa, period, it is extremely important. We're based in the UK, and in the UK, for example, only 2% of children's books feature a Black lead character.
Wow.
In fact, the lack of diversity in children's books is so bad that an animal is 8 times more likely to be on a children's book front cover than a Black child. So the lack of representation is terrible. And people think that this problem is unique to the UK or the US and Anglo-European markets, but that's not the case. Even in Africa, we've seen it in Uganda, Nigeria. People have written to us from Zimbabwe, South Africa, Kenya, that the lack of diversity in books is there too. That the stories that young African children are reading are not stories that they see themselves reflected in.
Exactly.
Addressing cultural themes, topics, people, and places that they feel is relevant to the world that they live in and that the world that they see around them. And this is extremely devastating. And I say that because books are the window to children's world. Yes. And when children don't see themselves represented, it has an effect on their self-confidence.
Yes, it does.
It gives them the perception that in the world they're not important, because it is a certain looking child that is being prioritized, whose experiences are being highlighted, and it creates almost an inferiority complex, because they will wonder why they don't see somebody that looks like themselves. So it's a very well documented issue in the West. It's not very well documented in Africa, but it's something that we know is happening. Teachers and parents tell us that they don't see enough books for their young children on themes and with characters that look like themselves. So it's extremely important in Uganda and in Africa generally.
And I think that has actually, like in my day growing up, we grew up reading stories, African stories about animals, about children, about adults, legends and things like that. But I find that more so in Uganda today, we don't have too many books that depict African children or Ugandan children in positive light that would make them proud of who they are and encourage them. I think, and encourage parents and teachers to have more books with African authors, with African or Ugandan themes in them. I think that this is something that needs to be highlighted, you know, rather than pushing forward more literal material that has not much to do with our culture and does not depict us in good light. So that is a really, really important point there that you've raised.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do you think your business is going to support teachers in elementary and nursery schools? How can they use them?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of ways that teachers can and have been using our books. First and foremost, we've been trying to encourage teachers and schools to diversify their libraries. And it's something that we've really received a lot of feedback that schools and teachers and educators want to do. Sometimes they're not quite sure which books to look for, whether at the different reading levels. So we've made that very clear in our books, on the back of our books and things like that. But in addition to that, we have a teacher's guide that we give to teachers, because this allows them to take the story and be able to unpack the story, understand what the key elements are, provide questions, suggestions, activities that they could be doing with children based on the story, based on the lessons and the morals that have been weaved into the story as well. I know, having worked and collaborated with plenty of teachers, just how hard they work and how much they have on their plate. So our job really as a publisher is just to make the teachers' lives as easy as possible and help them be able to have the best experience that they can have with their classroom and their students. So we have a number of different resources in which we try to do that, because we know that teachers are often quite have a lot on their plate, and in addition to being a teacher, usually parents, wives, husbands, and everything else in between. So we know there's a lot going on, so we're trying to ease the load.
That is awesome. That is great, because I find in some of the schools in Uganda, a lot of the times, yes, we'll have teachers reading the books, but not many teachers have the resources like activity books that will help them unpack the story and help the students look at the story from a more critical point of view and express their ideas and make connections between maybe other stories and the story in the book, or maybe things that are happening in real life and the story in the book. You know, you mentioned kings and queens. We do have kings and queens in Uganda as well. So that is very relevant to the students. And something that I find so interesting, especially as a Canadian teacher, is that we are moving away from just having one, like a monocultural library, just depicting like Western culture in our books. And my school library actually has Kunda Kids books. So to all of you out there, if a Canadian school can have these books, I am not quite sure why we wouldn't find Kunda Kids books in our own school libraries. So I really encourage you to make sure that you get these books and into your schools as directors of schools, as teachers, and as parents to help your children have a love for reading and improve their reading skills and read about things that they're engaged in and interested in and can relate to. Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you how schools in Uganda can access the soft and hard copies of your book.
Okay, great question. So we are very much available in Uganda through a bookstore called Lightbulbs Edutainment. They have an Instagram page, and Rose, I'd love to show you their detailed links. Maybe we can put them on your website. But we are in a number of schools already in Uganda, in and out of Kampala, which makes us so happy. And if you actually go on our Instagram page, we have several videos from students in Uganda enjoying and reading our books. And our books have been translated, into activities in the classroom. In our activity books, we have crossword puzzles, we have quizzes. So not only are young people learning about these characters and this story, but they're also learning about geographical facts, about lots of fun historical things, as well as like exercising their mind and having a good time. We've had a number of schools actually adapt our books into plays as well, which is wonderful.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Thank you. And it gives young people an opportunity to really indulge in self-expression, and create these stories in a way that makes it their own. And that's been wonderful to see. So there's so many things that you can do with these stories. And we're always happy to have conversations with teachers and schools about new fun and creative things that they can do.
Do you have any new books coming up that we should look out for?
Yes, we actually do. So currently we have a series called Africa's Little Kings and Queens. It's actually what Kunda Kids is quite, I would say, mostly well known for. Currently, that's 6 books that features 6 kings and queens from African history. So we have Queen Ya, from Ghana, and that story is Queen Ya Saves the Golden Stool. The Golden Stool is actually a real life emblem that the real Queen Ya in history attempted to save to protect her country. That's a story about bravery and the importance of responsibility. We have Shaka Zulu Learns to Dance, one of the favorites in our collection, inspired by the amazing Shaka Zulu, who in history was one of Africa's nation builders. And this is a fun story about self-confidence and embracing your own style and individuality. Mansa Musa Builds a School is our 3rd book, inspired by the real life Mansa Musa, who in history was one of the richest people documented in history, period, and actually one of the 4 founders of several educational institutions and universities in Africa that attracted theologists, mathematicians, scientists, astronomists, some amazing people and thought leaders. We have Queen Moremi Makes a Promise, inspired by the real life Nigerian Queen Moremi, who was a Yoruba queen. And this is a story about friendship, the importance of keeping a promise and sharing. And then we have King Aubrey Cooks the Best Jollof Rice, inspired by...
I'd like to read that one.
Inspired by the real life King Aubrey from Senegal. And the reason we wrote that story is because jollof rice is a very well-known traditional West African dish, mainly dominated by Nigerians and Ghanaians, but actually originates from Senegal. And there was a real kingdom called the Kingdom of Jollof, and he was one of the real kings of the last kings of that real kingdom. So those are just 6 of our fun stories, and we have one more story that we're going to be launching very soon, and that is inspired by the real life Queen Amina from Nigeria. And actually Queen Amina is relatively well known for being an extremely brave warrior queen in Nigeria's history. Recently, Netflix actually produced a movie inspired by her life and the great things that she had done. So we're really excited about sharing that story with young people very soon.
That is so wonderful to hear. I had no idea about the jollof rice. Obviously, I've heard about the fights between Ghanaians and Nigerians who makes the best jollof rice. And I bet so many of them don't know it was an actual kingdom, right?
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. And exactly. And also, when you're talking about Mansa Musa and Shaka Zulu, those are characters that growing up in school, I learned about in history. But for them to be referred to in children's books in such an engaging way, I wish I had had that experience in school. So that is so wonderful that kids will dip their feet into some African history by reading your books at such an early age. So that is wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yes, I wish that I had sort of had these books growing up too. And they've been an education, not just for young people, but for adults and teachers as well. And even our own team at Kunda Kids has loved learning about African history, just being part of this whole process.
Okay, so Louisa, it's been so wonderful spending some time with you here at Teaching for Success. Thank you so much for all the information that you've given us about Kunda Kids. I cannot wait to read the 7th book coming out, and also to tell my friends and other teachers about the Jollof Kingdom. I bet so many of the teachers and people even from Nigeria and Ghana don't know that. Indeed. So it's been a wonderful pleasure interviewing you. And to all of you out there, you can access the Kunda Kids website under our resources tab. And we'll also put links to the bookstore in Uganda for you and links to Kunda Kids as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.